Good morning. It is 8:49 a.m. Not p.m. a.m. It is 8:49 a.m. It is July 16th. It is Wednesday morning and I just woke up a few hours ago. So I'm kind of taking it slow. I'm having my coffee, and I am working on narrating my video that I had talked about for my website. Um, I will say that it is rather dull because I have most of the script already narrated. Right now, I'm looking for photos to go with it. And so I wanted to, just kind of make this video first because I think there's a lot of things on my mind. I had a hard time sleeping last night. Now, yesterday was kind of like one of those really restless days because I had a lot of things going through my mind, right? And of course, what was going through my mind was the issue of, the whole issue of gang stalking and the experience that I went through with the harassment and then me having to make videos to address the president and talk about the churches and everything else. Okay, so you're always wondering, okay, am I ready to start? Am I ready to begin? Because I dealt with a lot of criminals, okay, that I had mentioned, and a lot of people. When I talk about the criminality of what I experienced, like my Kofi and my Patreon accounts being ripped off, the message that keeps coming to my mind has something to do with aliens, okay? And I talked about, the Alpha Draconians. I know that sounds so crazy, right? But, I understand, like, there's certain groups of people that you could break them down into aliens. And when you think about the issue of cloning, okay, this was actually an alien technology that's been used for a very long time, okay, longer than I can even recall, okay. Like I said, I have been around for many years and reincarnated, and obviously this must have been around for a very long time through alien cloning. And the message I get is something about protection, me having protection. I think we have different people here on the earth, okay? Like, what we see here and we recognize as human races. We have white people, black people, we have Asians, we have Hispanic people, and when you really chisel it down, even they break down into different, different categories. Okay, we have white people, we have white Spanish-speaking people, we have white people who speak Latin languages like Italian or whatever. So, are all of these races, like alien races, all clumped together? Are they all separate? This I do not know where the aliens come from, and they go into like these different races that we recognize and talk about commonly. Okay, so I realized when I was doing my alien spread, okay, because I had noticed that I shared in my example in my newsletter that I was at war with the Alpha Draconians. Now, I personally think that it was a one-sided war, and I do know that in this life as Maria Gordon, they had initiated a hate campaign against me using churches, okay, church affiliation. So it may have started with the Alpha Draconians and may have branched out to other ones, okay? Like I will tell you a couple other alien groups that popped up into my spread, okay? And if you saw my video for the instructions of that lesson, I did add churches, okay, and of course the LDS Church popped out. I also got something from the Catholic Church, and I also got when it comes to aliens specifically, I got things like the Sasani, and then I also got things like uh, what do you call that? I want to say Nordic type, Nordic, yeah, Nordic aliens, and I think that they are also referred to as the Pleiadians. Okay, so anyway, and at this present moment, I'm at peace with them. Okay, but see, a lot of times when whether it boils down to alien race or human race, people have their own rituals and traditions and customs. Okay, so if they see anything that deviates from that, okay, then they think, oh, she's doing something wrong. We need to correct her behavior, and this is a lot of the reason why. We have things like mutilations of things like, when it comes to clones. Okay, I had mentioned in my newsletter that, when I did my reading as CB Berganza was an intersexed individual. Okay, not by design of God, not like, God decided to in the womb formulate me with, both weird stuff going on, but this was something that was man-made and orchestrated, okay, through a system, okay, a system of cloning. And no, I don't agree with cloning. I mean, obviously, like I said, I talked about, what could be used for in the future. Like if people want to come back, they want to have a second chance at life, or they themselves want to be immortals, okay? And I'm sure there might be people here on this earth who are filthy rich who want to continue coming back here on the earth as who they are or whatever. So there's benefits to it. I'm not saying just because it has dark origins does not mean that it cannot be used for something good. I'm just saying is, the way things are, okay, and I know that I don't think that I've gotten the best quality of life as a child. Okay, I don't think I got the best quality of life as an adult. Okay, so this is one of the reasons why I take care of me. Okay, so I know that throughout my videos, I have communicated my frustration of being a targeted individual, and I do understand that the alien races do understand from my point of view. Now, I got the intuitive message. I remember a couple days ago, if you watch my video, I had talked about PG&E. It called me while I was making a video. I don't know if that was delivered or not, but I know that when you're a targeted individual, they feel as though they do a lot of intrusive things, okay? And the reason why they do it is because it's a form of harassment. Now, I think just about everybody knows, especially the points that I've made, is that the harassment was completely illogical. It was uncalled for, and it should have never happened. Okay, and when you think about how we live in the United States, I'm glad to be a United States citizen, and there are other countries that recognize freedom of religion, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for that. Why? Because people can get abused if this was, but the people did it anyway. Okay, and so this is one of the reasons why I was talking about. I can tell that this was a bad design. I mean, not design. It was bad for religions to ignore that or think that their view was going to overstep what was already laid out as a foundation. That was well thought out. Okay, because if you think about people just launching covert wars against you because they don't like your religion. Okay, and mind you, all of this took me by surprise because I had realized that, my family, I will not, and I refuse to say and refer to my family as Christians. I refuse. Now, I know that my sister Tanya went to church. I know that her husband went to church, but this was some sort of collaboration because my sister Lisa had no religious bone in her body, but I know that she played an integral part in my targeting. Okay, so this was not about, it was not about truly, making me or trying to feel as though I needed to, or implying, okay, that I needed to have a better relationship with God or that I had any issues relating to my moral standards. That was not the case. This was about abusing someone, okay? So I understand that. I do get the intuitive message that the religions do now know what they did wrong and that they are expressing sympathies. Here, I'm going to be very honest about how I feel about their sympathies, okay? Like I said, I still have issues of being shadow banned on my channel as Maria Borden, okay? I still, in the last week or two, because of the PG&E call, until those issues in where I'm not dealing with, okay, first I want to say about the PG&E bill. Yes, I do understand that I have a past due bill, okay, but I also knew that I was getting paid the next upcoming week, okay, so I already had it in my mind that I was going to pay PG&E. I already had my debt cleared through PG&E through a specific program that I was on, right? So I understood. I did not receive my bill. Now, that's not really an excuse because I know I should have received my bill, right? I should have checked. But I will tell you, when you're dealing with human trafficking or you've dealt with harassing type emails, I avoid my email like the plague. Now, I did notice that PG&E for the last few months have been advertising on their website that they're going to be changing the format of their website. Okay, so when I logged on the last time, I noticed that I had to re-enter all my information and I transferred all my old email information to my new one. Okay, so I don't know what happened, but I could have what do you call it? I could have overlooked the bill because I don't check my email. That's the last thing I want to do is look at my email. I do not want to have contact with the outside world, and rightfully so because I've dealt with that. Now, I don't know if any of the emails that I have in my Gmail account are harassing or offensive, or I don't know. It's just that I know that in the past I would deal with people that I would rather just kind of shut out, and that's how I've been handling things. But I had every intention of being current on my PG&E bill. So, and I had talked about me having issues with my landlord and stuff like that in the past, and then I noticed that I had received, and like I said, I understand I'm late with the bill, okay, and I paid my rent. But my point is that I was put in situations where my employment was being manipulated. I was placed in debt deliberately by the same Christian group, by the same so-called Christian group. So it's like when I talk about organized crime, what they do is they mess with your employment, just like they took it upon themselves to mess with my credit cards. They had no right to do that. An employer has no right to sit here and do that, but they do a lot of really bad things. Okay, the message I'm getting right now is something about the first batch of people that I sent I started sending, what do you call it, emails to certain people, okay, here in Bakersfield as well in Lancaster, as well as certain other places in California. Now, this started last month, and now I realize, okay, you know what, I think I'm going to have to get a website to do this, okay, so that I can send bulk emails, okay. But something about these people that I sent, this message keeps coming back to me, and perhaps maybe this is what launched the new news, what do you call it, information. Maybe somebody reported this to the news or whatever, but everyone in this community, I know that it's supposed to be a covert operation, but it's not. I'm fully aware of what happened. I'm fully aware of gang stalking. I'm fully aware of human trafficking, and I'm fully aware of what the signs are. And I understand that there was a plot. Okay. And I honestly will say that I hold everyone in this community accountable because there are no innocent people when it comes to gang stalking. Now, the message I'm getting right now is something about protection. I understand that I'm being viewed worldwide. Okay, so the reason why I do not forgive, just when I say I don't forgive the religions, I don't forgive them because I know that the reason why I'm being viewed worldwide, I believe that they're somehow connecting my YouTube channel perhaps to like another shadow channel, which I mentioned this before. Okay, so to me, if they were really sorry, they wouldn't be doing that. They would not be messing with my ability to get views. Okay, now and I find it very, I don't accept those sort of apologies. Okay, that does not mean I'm retaliating. I'm just saying is, I do not trust these people, and nor will I ever. Okay, and the reason why is because they refuse to actually do what they should do based on Christianity. Okay, like if this was really about Christ, following in the footsteps of Christ, they wouldn't have done any of this sort of stuff. Okay, the message I'm getting right now, it is well known that Christianity is fake, wicked, and does not have God's favor. That's the message I'm getting. Okay, now, and I'm not saying that there's not a sincere person who aligns with certain beliefs all on their own, or maybe there's a church that practices it who's not participating in human trafficking, who's not doing this. Okay, that's not including them. I do believe there might be, okay, like I said, we live in a very wicked world. There might be sincere people who care about that. But if you're somebody who still has their hand in it, I doubt it. Okay, so anyway, the message I'm getting right now is that I should stick with my intuitive messages, that I am right on track. Like, I'm not making any mistakes. I'm perceiving the information that's coming through me. So, like, if I wanted to look at a YouTube video about, because sometimes I get these chosen one videos and I'll watch them, okay? I could watch them, but I would say that what's going on in my mind is more accurate than I would say that what's going on in what I'm picking up on is more accurate and something that I should follow instead of the advice of other people. The other intuitive message I got is that people believe that my political views are good. They actually, the message I get is superb. I know most people don't use that word nowadays, but it's understandable and it's right on target. Okay. I do not do anything to try to favor who I am. I believe that things should be right, fair across the board. Okay. So, when I realized that I was a victim of human trafficking, I really was upset because I don't like to communicate about issues, political issues or whatever, but I ended up having to talk about these things because it was just outright wrong. Now, it was absolutely wrong, and I can go on and on and on about why it was wrong. And the very fact that, I have to tell people that it was wrong is shocking. This is one of the reasons why I'm like, okay, well, I think it's important that I make, the laying the foundation. It's not just about, I realize how uneducated people are. I realize how rude people are. I understand how ignorant and dangerous people are, okay? And so this is one of the reasons why I feel it was important. And also, I'm hoping that if the state of California takes this seriously, I talk about, how I think this should be set up. I think it should be where people have to review these. Why? Because like people over the age of 18, this kind of abuse came from people over the age of 18 years old. Okay, which tells me that either they forgot the lessons that their parents told them about don't touch things that don't belong to you. That includes physical objects, people's accomplishments, that sort of stuff. Okay, so maybe they need to have a refresher course in this. Okay, I think I'm being kind of sarcastic, but I think I'm also making a point. Okay, and then there's some people whose parents never taught them anything. And I want to tell you, I have encountered some people that really come off as that ignorant. Okay, so I think people who are over the age of 18 should be re-educated through this program of laying the foundation. Like it's a video series, okay? So I don't want to make it too long, but I'm trying to think about how long it should be before people actually view it and submit the proof that they've actually viewed it with the state. And hopefully I can have other people that I can talk to about this because I want other people's opinion. Now I tried to reach out. Well, actually I didn't try. I just kept thinking, okay, because I knew that I was shadow banned. I was being blocked by Christian organizations to prevent me from doing that. They prevented people from communicating with me. Okay, which is illegal already, which is an admission of their plot of genocide just by doing that. Okay. Also, so yeah, I'm not, buying any sort of apologies from the church. And I would like to, reiterate to Donald Trump, when it comes to my future social media, I cannot have that blocked. I cannot have that blocked. Okay. I don't deserve to be blocked. And I do know that most people know who I am. I realize that I have a history behind me. Like I didn't know anything about the 1960s views of me, and then my father being seen with the apparition of me. I was also in my family's house. Apparently, I spent time, connecting with my father in the 1960s. Okay, and people knew this. And then apparently, when they found my father's apparition, and I believe, okay, I don't know when they found exactly when, but I know weird stuff happened like right around Murray Family Farms. Right around Murray Family Farms place. And I honestly can tell you that. I felt as though a presence wanted to let themselves be known. And I do believe that that was my father. Why? Because I think that he was trying to tell me that I was in danger. Okay, the message I'm getting right now is that people believe that I exercise good diplomacy, that I am a fair and wise, just leader. Okay, and like I remember thinking, while I was dealing with the weird paranormal activity that was going on in my house after I left Murray Family Farms place. I had mentioned the candles busting. I had mentioned that the weird thing that was going on with the smoke detector and everything. And I realized, okay, something is seriously going on. I know that the town at that time was trying to kill me. Okay, and they've been doing that for a very, very long time. Okay, and see, they practice this a form of religion, Christianity, that is into organized crime. Okay, that's exactly what it is. It's all organized crime. Okay, and it's more like people using religion as an excuse. But I understand that going up, okay, before the internet, I got my reputation through the churches. Okay, and the churches did not understand soul transition. Okay, me and my father. Our apparitions are very bright, I believe, and noticeable. Okay, and there's a spiritual reason for that. Now, when I return home to heaven, I don't think that we will be seen. I think chances are me and my dad will probably hang out somewhere in the ethers or something. I don't know. Okay, but there must be some serious reason why we are being seen. And I think it's because we are trying to get the message through that we are holy and that we are meant to be here and we're here for each other's protection. I will be here for, my son's protection when I'm gone. And then I believe that me and my father will always preside over people that we love and care about. Okay. And I get the intuitive message that the government officials support and protect me. I am very grateful. Thank you very much. Also, I get the message that a lot of the people here in the United States recognize me as the savior. I was always reluctant to refer to myself that way. Okay. And like I said, I got this intuitive message a while ago that people looked at me as the savior. And I kept thinking, okay, because I'm somebody who is very respectful towards holy things. And I kept thinking, okay, that sounds so blasphemous. Like, because I look at myself as a human, right? but I understand that I have the abilities of a deity, and I know people understand that I have a background. I do realize, at the time, I didn't realize I was the clone of King Solomon. Okay, and I guess that is what it is. Okay, and I think a lot of people were expecting a white Jesus, and I think this is one of the reasons why I was treated the way that I was. Okay, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I do not know what to tell you. It is what it is. Okay, but I care a lot about my spiritual life, and I live by my spiritual life. Meaning, like, this is what puts me apart from a lot of other people. Um, a lot of people look at me as in a level or in a in a level or in a class kind of different than other people. Okay, and I would say that that's true. I do have different morals. I do have different standards. Okay, I have the highest standards, and I try to be fair. If I'm in an argument, even if you look at my newsletter, as I'm talking about the Nazis, I think I did a little bit of a brief thing about the Nazis. I think it was called the Ankh and the swastika. Okay, I talk about how this particular group has always been interested in the occult sciences, and this is really what it boils down to. It's about who has God's favor and all this other stuff. Okay, I would, like I said, I would never get into a war over something like that, and I know that it was a wrong thing to do. I mean, it was wrong for them to attack me, and I hope that in the future they will never do that to anyone else. Okay, I'm sure in the future there will be people here on the earth that might have special gifts or whatever, and hopefully they don't get targeted. Okay, maybe in the future it will be more understood. Okay, but what happened to me was just outright wrong. Like, had I never dealt with the Murray family farms explosion, and things would have just carried on normally. Let's just say, for example, things were normal. Like, I was going to work, coming home, having a regular routine. I would have never known anything about the cloning thing. I would have never known that I was the King Solomon person. I would have never. I mean, I might have found out because I know that I was doing research. You know what I mean? But still, I mean, I never. I would have never been in this kind of argument, or I'm just angry that people didn't know any better. You know what I mean? Or they either didn't know any better, or they deliberately did something that was illegal. The other message that I'm getting is that and that's really what it boils down to. What it boils down to is that I was a well-known occultist and somebody who created the free thought movement. And like I said, when it comes to anything occult related, I find that there is great hypocrisy, not just here in the United States, but unfortunately even in England. Okay, because when I think about some of these people who were associated, like for example, I talk about what is his name? Aleister Crowley. Okay, now I'm going to tell you, I was very influential to a lot of people who are well known now. Back in the day, SCB Brigands. Okay, now take for example Aleister Crowley. Aleister Crowley was out loud and proud about his rejection of Christianity. He was just outright rejecting Christianity, and he was a well-known member of different secret societies, what do you call it, magical orders, esoteric orders, and doesn't seem like anybody blacklisted him. Okay, and when we have other people who had different alternative forms of thought, like I said, when it came to the New Thought movement or the Free Thought movement, I would say people like Steve Murray belonged to a religion. It was called Science of Mind, and do not mistake it for Scientology. They're two different things, okay? But I can't think of his name. I keep thinking his name is. Um, I can't think of his name. But I will say that this dude ripped me off, okay? He pretty much ripped me off, as well as people like Ellen White, who was like incorporated some of her beliefs into the Seventh Day Adventists and everything else, okay? Meanwhile, I was the one who was getting stomped on. I was the one who was getting targeted on. You know what I mean? And a lot of it has to do with me being black. That was it. My race, okay? And so there's hypocrisy there. It's just obvious hypocrisy. Hypocrisy. Okay? Yes, I do identify as an occultist, okay? But it makes sense why somebody would have an interest in the unseen. And that's all it means, okay? And there's dark occult type practices, and there is, what I call just like prayer. To me, prayer is a spell, or prayer. Yeah, it's the same thing. Okay, it's like you're putting out energy, hoping to change or have a different outcome. That is exactly what it is. Okay, so I think a lot of people don't really know what they're talking about, but they're willing to attack. Okay. When I think about other people, like, for example, Anton LaVey was a Satanist. Now, I know that Anton LaVey didn't really believe in an actual Satan. He was actually kind of spoofing the religious attitudes of, like, the church, okay, which I will say the church is known to be obnoxious, okay. And in my case, I know I've experienced it, and I think that what Anton LaVey was saying is he was just outright rejecting it, and acting like he was accepting Satanism when he didn't actually believe there was an actual Satan. Anton LaVey didn't believe that Satan was an actual deity or God or anything. He was just saying, he was sick of the church, so he was doing something opposite. And yes, he did perform rituals and stuff like that. But I also think that Anton LaVey was kind of a showman. Okay, really, I don't, and I'm not saying that I align with him. But what I'm saying is that here was a man, Anton LaVey, right? I don't recall him getting blacklisted. He lived here in the United States till he died back in the 90s, okay? So what I'm saying is that I deal with racism. It is racism is what I deal with, okay? As well as sexism, or they'll use anything they can to try to deny my privileges and my rights that I have, and I rightfully deserve, okay? So, and I'm aware of it, okay? I do a lot of people acknowledge me as being the best, and when it comes to me being an occupational engineer, people take my work seriously, whether they want to acknowledge it or not, okay? Also, many other clones are choosing heaven. To me, it's the best and most natural choice. You know what I mean? It makes sense to go to heaven. Okay, it makes sense to not be here on the earth. Okay, and yes, I'm obviously have a good relationship with the divine. Okay, I was considered to be one of the immortals. That was put back here on the earth. Okay, and I'm not the only one. Obviously, a lot of celebrities are, some politicians are, just regular everyday people that you see out. Like I said, there's people in Lancaster that were clones when I was younger. I believe the Ridgecrest area. So clones are, they're here. They've been here for a while. Okay, but when it comes to uh, the idea of, because see, it was originally done for bloodline targeting. Okay, their reason was that they had some sort of vendetta against certain bloodlines, and these bloodlines, I believe, of course, alien DNA and all this other stuff, had special gifts. Okay, so then we have people like the churches that kind of blend in with them, and then they want to put pressure on people who come from a different time period to convert to their religion. Okay, that's absurd, and it's not necessary. Okay, like the church thought, okay, like people who were attending the church, they thought that, okay, people like me who came back needed to get converted like right away. Okay, but that was not the reason why we were created in the first place. The reason why we were created in the first place is because there was a bloodline targeting. That's why. Okay, and the church was doing their thing, and then but the original purpose was because they wanted to bully us for, I guess they just wanted to challenge, who's got the best, gifts or whatever. No one is interested in anything like that. The message I'm getting is about the news station. There was some sort of, okay, and the message I get when the news coverage thing keeps popping up is on a few different topics. A lot of it has to do with my alien spread or being an alien. A lot of people do recognize me as a leader. Like I said, I never wanted to get into leadership, but apparently, in this world, you're either a leader or a follower, and I guess I have a strong personality, so I guess I'm a leader. And yeah, okay, my intuitive messages are what I need to follow. Okay, it's not that I mean, I do like a lot of the videos. Like if I get bored, I might check out a video on YouTube. Okay, and a lot of those are ones that are addressed to chosen ones. Okay, but I don't like to sit here and like worry about what goes on around me that much. You know what I mean? But I do need to know and feel things out. Like what is the majority of thought? Because I remember when I made my Ko-fi channel and my Patreon channel. Okay, I was surprised and shocked to be stolen from. I was stolen from. Okay, and this is what I'm talking about. Donald Trump. Donald Trump. Please make sure that does not happen to me again. Do not make sure that does not happen to me again. I do not want to be stolen from. Okay. Now I know that I'm going to be opening a new website. I have not linked any payment details or anything like that. People should know better to not steal my money. Okay, they should know that. Okay, because it's outright theft. Number one, it's outright theft, And as some people who are proposing to be Christian should definitely know better. Okay. Hopefully the people who stole my money, they are, getting punished. I hope that they do get punished. Okay. I do. Um, the other message I got is that I have every right to be proud and love CB Braganza. And yes, I do love CB Braganza. I think that he was an amazing person. And deep down inside, I believe the people who persecuted him knew that he was an amazing person, okay? But they felt very threatened by who he was, okay? And why is because everybody knew he had God's favor. Everybody knew he had God's favor. And see, this is why I'm talking about the blasphemous attitude of people, okay? They recognized that CB Braganza was a holy person, okay? But yet they treated him in that sort of manner. These people are not godly people, okay? But I recognize just because something's different doesn't mean that it's not holy. And just like, I talked about, King Solomon being raised in the house of David. And David, their background they had a different culture than King Solomon. But he expected probably to people around King Solomon probably expected him to just like live like everybody else. That's impossible to do. It's impossible to do. He can only do so much. Okay. So I do think that he probably agreed with some of the things, but he also was his own person, which makes sense. The other message I get is my mom was aware of the 1960s, my presence in the house. Okay. And I don't know if, why that's popping up, but it is. Anyway, a lot of people agree that it is a shame and disgrace on the church. They acknowledge the injustice about the cloning. Okay, it's like for years and years and years, people got blamed for what the church was doing. Okay, it's not even so much the church. Okay, I do believe it's the church's fault. Why? Because the churches were merging with these particular cloning facilities, and they were also working alongside of them. Okay, but they were acting as if we were born this way, like we came out of the room and God themselves decided to punish us. That is not the truth. That is not the truth. Okay, now the message I'm also getting right now is that I know a lot of the female bullies have died. You know what I mean? And I cannot say that I'm sorry for them. Okay, because I understand that these people knew what they were doing. Okay, and I understand by the looks on their face that they knew what they were doing. When I was let me find my nose. When I was working, okay, and I was dealing with some of these bullying women, I talked about the I talked about the mischievous smile that people get on their face, right? That mischievous smile, I think I've shown the emoji. I'm gonna put the sweater on. It is chilly in here. Okay, there we go. Anyway, so I would see the look on their face, kind of like this, like that little jealous type look. Okay, but the thing is that you can tell when people do that, and they deep down inside knew that it was wrong. Okay, so I'm not giving them any sympathy. I will not sympathize with these people. I do not feel sorry for these people. They knew what they were doing was wrong. Okay, I mean, if a person is well dressed and well polished, okay, and they take care of their appearance, all right, obviously they are dressed well or they're dressed nice or whatever. That means that they're supposed to be that way. So they were trying to basically ruin my image, right? So that they could feel better about themselves. Because I will tell you, if you think about things in the professional context, I would say that I had seen and encountered a lot of people that I worked with who would come to work in sweatpants and tennis shoes. Okay, and that's their choice. Like I said, there were places that I worked that did not have a dress code. Okay, but I consider myself to be a real professional. You know what I mean? And I would think that, and I was raised to believe, okay, that, professional attire was what you wore to work. Like back in the days, like when I was younger and we would go into department stores and they had, departments separated. You know what I mean? They had like, a sport wear, they had like a professional, like they used to call it career wear or whatever. So I'm used to that. I'm used to that. And one of the things I was thinking about was kind of slowing me down is I was looking for pictures for this particular video. And see, I was talking about, because I understand that a lot of celebrities were involved in this. And the reason why celebrities were involved in it is because I was obviously born from Diana Ross, okay? And I don't acknowledge this woman. I'm just disgusted by how greedy this woman was, okay? But this is how the connection comes in, okay? And I know that a lot of these people were told not to communicate with me because I wore makeup, because I wore nice clothes. Now, I had mentioned that these people, that's exactly what these people do when they are on stage, okay? So I was looking for pictures to show and illustrate some of the clothes that these women wear, okay? And I am not in any, because I understand celebrities have a job, just like if I have a job, okay, I have a job to go into an office every day, and I would think that I would look the way I need to for a job, like a professional type person, okay. And in the same regard, I would say that they do as well. You know what I mean? They're there not just to sing, but a lot of times they add things like visuals, and a lot of that has to do with the way that they wear clothes and stuff like that, right? Styling or whatever. And some of these outfits, and then what I'm trying to show is the outfits that they're wearing. Okay, there was one picture that I got of, and I think Kim Kardashian is a beautiful woman, but she wears a lot of things that are very sexy, and I'm not pointing her out, and I'm not trying to make her feel bad. Okay, and personally, I feel if this is what people want to do, they want to show that part of their body, then that's all good for them. Okay, that's their choice. I don't feel as though there should be any repercussions or anything like that. I'm not judging anybody, okay, because that's how cool and relaxed I am. Okay, but I'm saying is, but a lot of these people who were sitting here rejecting me, right, and looking down on me like I wasn't worthy, are guilty of things 10 times worse. Okay, and they would identify as Christian. I also got the intuitive message is that, I know that the church held it against me that I was astral projecting. I am not a professional astral projector, okay? I had talked about my experiences that would happen sporadically, and I remember telling my sister when I was like in 5th grade that I had astral projection. As an adult, I chose to want to master that. I would like to master that, right? Okay, and so the churches were holding that against me. Number one, I am not a member of your church. I'm not a member of your church, which means that I am not required to adhere to the standards of your church. You had no right to sit here and tell other people about what I do. Okay, and I would say that astral projection is a normal process. I would say astral projection is probably a normal process for people who've been cloned. One of the things that triggers astral projection is if sometimes some people can do it just because, okay? But a lot of things that can trigger and ignite it is if you are feeling discontentment. Now, I was feeling a lot of discontentment when I was in 5th grade. I was getting bullied a lot, and this is one of the things that I personally believe made it so that I was releasing from my body at night, okay? Involuntary, okay? So these people in the church did not understand that either, okay? Astral projection, if you're a clone, other people who are not a clone, who aren't clones, have, I'm sure, experienced astral projection. But I would say that if you are a clone, chances are you're going to experience astral projection a lot. That's not our fault. Okay, remember, we have to constantly remind these church people that they teamed up with cloning facilities and whatnot, and then they're going to hold us accountable or blame us for things that we naturally do as a result of being created from these people. Okay, so it doesn't make any sense. So this is one of the reasons why you have to educate people on this issue. Aside from that, I have the right to astral project if I want to. If I wanted to deliberately astral project, I have every right to do that. But the issue is that when it comes to the creators of this cloning program, and like I said, when you get down to it, what it has to do with is people fighting for spiritual power. Because the Nazis and people like that was all they're into. Okay, so it has more to do with that than anything else. Okay. The other message that I got is that I'm aware that there's a lot of women who committed suicide, and the way I look at it is that, like I said, they knew what they were doing. Okay, you should not have to tell somebody to not bully another human being, or yeah, I do not, and I know when I was meditating on this issue about the women who committed suicide, everybody wants to blame the church, okay, and yes, I would say the church is to blame, okay, because they incited it. These so-called preachers, pastors that sit at the pulpit, like I said, if you are in a leadership position, what you say to your congregation matters. Okay, if you are in a position of power, or you're in any power, like whether that be a preacher, a manager, a teacher, a whatever, if you say something to people because in the back of their mind you have a position, okay, and you are basically endorsing that sort of behavior. So yes, I do blame the churches, okay, but I also blame them as individuals, okay. They knew good and well what they were doing was wrong, and I do not feel sorry for them at all. Okay. Anyway, and I don't feel sorry for their kids who are going to grow up without a mother or whatever. That is too bad. And like I said, if this person The mother is rotten. I remember my parents used to say, trash breeds trash. Okay, you were going to probably raise up another trash individual just like they were. So I don't care. And people can say, "Oh, that's mean. That's heartless." You know what? You know how many years of bullying I've had to deal with unjustly from these religious, so-called religious people. Okay, I do not feel sorry for the. I don't have any compassion for people who are trying to destroy any part of me. Okay, so I don't feel sorry for them. Anyway, a lot of people feel as though I set the standards. They look at me as somebody who, yeah, because I would say that I'm educated enough to be able to recognize what was going on and take control of the situation by explaining it. Okay, and this is all based on religion. And like I said, because I still deal with issues relating to my YouTube channel, I still deal with issues. In the last week, I don't know if PG&E was delivered or not, but I do suspect that maybe something with my landlord might have had something to do with them picking on me because I know I had some issues. Okay, and all of my issues are a result of their doing as a collaborative effort, keeping me out of work, doing all this sort of stuff. So basically, any sort of attempt to bother me, these people are guilty. Okay, they're guilty because obviously if I was out of work or something and didn't have a job, it was all because they were part of the same network. Okay, so and like I said, if I deal with anything, just like if I deal with shitty customer service, I'm going to assume that they're trying to carry on the same bullshit. So when I deal and encounter with people, they better treat me right at the counter, because if they don't, you best believe I'm going to be here on online and I'm going to blast them. You know why? Because everybody in this community knows who I am. Everybody knows that I've dealt with, illogical people or people who want to enact their passive aggressive behavior on me because they're kind of disappointed now that they know that they're in the wrong. So they still have this like I still have it in me to be a demonic person, so I'm going to step over that line. Step over that line, and your name will be blasted. I will report you. So when I go in for customer service or whatever, I expect the pleases and the thank you and the proper greeting and everything else. You better do it, because if you don't, and the reason why I'm doing it, I have every reason to do it. I have every right to do it. Okay, I'm not putting up with anybody's bullshit. Rightfully so. Okay, now the the spooky phenomenon. This is the message I'm getting. Okay, the people that I wish dead did die. Okay, and I'm not somebody who wishes death on anybody. Everybody knows who knows me knows that I'm a very peaceful person. Okay, but these people were preventing me from being able to live. This is one of the reasons why I do not feel sorry for the catty women who started the crap. I don't feel sorry for their children. Like I said, if you're trash, chances are your children's trash too. So I don't care. That's just two more or more people that can need to get off the earth. Okay, I do not care. That sounds really heartless, doesn't it? It shouldn't sound heartless. It sounds like it's right to me. It's justice. Okay? I've dealt with illogical people since I was a kid for no apparent reason. And I don't need anybody piggybacking or acting stupid. So, like I said, fall out of line and you're going to be addressed right then and there. Okay? I'm so done with it. Anyway, the other message I get is that people about Elon Musk. Now, I sent Elon Musk a message last night, okay? Because the thing is, I shut down yesterday. I was just like, okay, I sent him a message in the morning, and then I just didn't really want to deal with anybody. And it was not because I wanted to reject him or anything like that, because I don't know him very well, okay? I really don't, okay? And when it comes to being a targeted individual, I never know who is legit, who's nice, who's really in it for some sort of game playing or whatever. So I have to take everything with a grain of salt. But at the same time, I do want him to know that if he's interested in being friends with me, I want him to know that I want to be a friend of his. Okay? So I did make him a video yesterday, and I sent it to him. Okay? I haven't heard from him back yet. Okay? But the thing is like I'm very reserved about meeting people and dealing with people. Okay? And I also, I don't know if Elon Musk is a particular religion. I do know that he had some sort of connection. It seemed like he had some sort of connection with Mormonism or some sort of Mormonism influence, okay? I like Elon. I will never convert to any religion. I'm just letting you know. I'm never going to convert to any religion. So if people are using Elon Musk as some sort of dangle, I'm going to let people know I am not going to sit here and convert just because of someone that I like. I would say that it's better to if Elon Musk wants to be friends, we can be friends. If he wants to hang out, we can be friends. We can hang out, okay, or whatever, okay. But I think he should know that I am very proud of the way that I live my life. I believe in my lifestyle. 100%. 100%. Okay? So I would not change that for anyone. Okay? And I do think he's cute, and I think he's a nice person from what I know. Okay? I know that, he has done things in the past that a lot of people would raise their eyebrow at. And see, where I'm coming from on this issue is the fact that I understand that he's been a part of a network. I understand that he was possibly a burden baby himself, and that he may have sometimes be in scripting or saying things that maybe he not fully understand, or maybe if you were telling him, I don't know. I really don't know. I'm not going to spend time meditating or whatever. I figure if he wants to open up and share with me those sort of things that he's involved in, he would do that. Okay, but I do get this message about um, religion, and about my career, and something about, yeah, okay, whatever, same stuff. But anyway, if he wants to continue talking to me, then that's great. Okay. But I am somebody who knows that I am not going to compromise my peace of mind for anybody. Okay. I have dealt with all kinds of abuse, and, they will use other people, and I'm not going to let people use anyone else to bother me. Okay, people, if he wants to have a relationship, a friendship with me, or possibly something more in the future, then it needs to be about he and I, and I'm fine with just being friends with him too. You know what I mean? Whatever kind of relationship we have, but I get the intuitive message that religion was trying to make an attempt to use Elon Musk as a dangle. The answer is no. Do not, and I want to let everyone know right now, do not interfere with any of my relationships, platonic, whatever, family relation. I don't have any more family, okay? But I understand that these people took it upon themselves to even probably communicate this stuff to my son. Let me tell you something. You stepped over the line, okay? I do not want to have any sort of communication or cooperations or anything like this with. I would never let myself become what you guys are. Okay, I do not respect your religion. I don't. This is one of the reasons why we have these women committing suicide. This is one of the reasons why we had this community acting the way that they were. Okay, ignorant and being belligerent and being evil. Okay, I don't want to be any part of that. So if Elon wants to continue communicating with me, he can communicate with me. Okay, if his religion prevents that, then that's his choice. Okay, he chooses to be a part of that religion. Okay. Meanwhile, Maria still has to continue going on. Okay, and yes, it is that way. Now, some weak women, they would be like, "Oh, I convert." Okay, and I understand. Okay, I understand the dynamics of relationships. Okay, let's just say, for example, Elon Musk and I got serious. Okay, and so we're all into each other. This is just as hypothetical. We're all into each other. That sort of infatuation only lasts for a while. Okay, and then we'd have to get down to the nuts and bolts of having a real relationship, setting up a home, and operating and being practical. Okay, so a lot of women would get swept off their feet and just like fall all over their, bowing down, worshiping this man and whatever. And don't get me wrong, he's cute and everything. Okay, but I understand that, I am not going to allow a temporary infatuation mold my life. Okay, and I understand these religions will sit here and use people as dangles, meaning you can have Elon, but then we're going to have to you're going to do this and this. Do not do that. Okay, I do not want any part of your religion. Okay, at all. So anyway, I think that's about it. Got that out of my system. Hopefully my website will be launched by Saturday, okay? Because what I need to do is finish my video. I need to look over everything, rewatch it, edit it, look over my website. I've edited my website so many times, okay? And like I said, I am not a professional, okay? I'm not a professional, but I did the best I could, okay? And like I said, I would say that I'm not as enthusiastic about business-related things anymore, mainly because of the evil people that I've had to deal with. Okay, and like I said, I'm not putting up with it anymore. So when I go into a place for customer service, like I said, if anything, like they even look at me funny. Okay, guess what? So, and I'm not doing this to be antagonizing. I'm doing it to correct the issue. Okay, I was treated like garbage in this community. Okay, and people thought that they were justified to do it. Why? Because their pastor told them to do it, or whatever. Okay. And like I said, when it comes straight down to it, I only excuse that to a certain extent. Okay? Because there was evil in them in the first place. They were just happy that somebody who they thought was in a position of leadership gave them the endorsement to do so. Okay, so I'm not putting up with that anymore. I will be wrapping up this video, and and this is, like I said, it's called justice. It is what it is, okay? I don't deserve to be mistreated. Okay, I have been nothing but a good citizen in this little town of Bakersfield from the get-go. Okay, so I'm tired of dealing with the Walking Dead, meaning like I understand these people, just like in the days of Noah, I talked about, like everyone's evil, and here I am with somebody who's tries to be righteous and live a good life. Okay, and I'm among people who are either ignorant or evil, and that's very terrifying for certain people. So, but I'm also going to be on top of it, like I said. So when I deal with people, like let's say for example, I decide to have lunch over at Chipotle. Do I pronounce that right? Whatever. What if I did? Okay, and I deal with somebody who gives me an eye roll or whatever. Guess what? Your name is going to be blasted on my channel, and I'm going to tell everyone about it. You know why? Because, and I honestly think when it comes to human trafficking, people who participate in human trafficking, when it comes to, and I'm usually the kind of person like at work, if I have to deal with a confrontation with somebody, I believe that you're supposed to give them, their privacy. I'm not going to sit here and yell at people like in front of a person, in front of anybody. Okay. But if I was to catch a perp in an office doing this kind of stuff, because it's so life threatening, I will tear them down in front of everybody. You know why? Because you're a murderer. That's what you are. You're the lowest scum of the earth, and you need to be addressed right then and there. I would not protect their privacy or their feelings, and nor would they. They don't deserve it. Okay, there's no ethical reason why I should sit here and consider somebody who's trying to kill me. I'm going to consider their feelings. Are you out of your mind? Anyway, wrapping up this video. I got things to do. I hope you have a wonderful day. Take care. Bye-bye.